Okay, well, let's consider Moon and Mercury. Moon and Mercury is a very, very interesting combination because the Moon is actually an enemy towards Mercury. Now, Mercury is a friend to the Moon, though. So Mercury is a friend of the Moon, but the Moon is an enemy towards Mercury. That always confounds some people. But, you know, we've known people that maybe you've liked someone and they haven't liked you back. It can go that way in relationships as well. But what is the Moon? Well, in this combination, the Moon does deal with our emotions. The Moon does deal with our imagination. It does, as with all things Moon-related, it deals with what is the nature of our soul consciousness. Like, what are we used to? And Mercury deals with the mind. Mercury deals with our interests. Mercury deals with trivia and managing things. And Moon-Mercury combinations, they can be really good or really bad. And why is that? Because both the Moon and Mercury are related to, the Moon is related to our capacity to take things in, so our senses, and Mercury is the way we process it. So if we have afflictions to Moon and Mercury, well, that can hurt a person in regards to, do they perceive reality well? Do they have maybe a psychological disorder? And usually it's going to be related to the perception, proper perception of things. So if your Moon and Mercury is with Jupiter or Venus and well supported, that can be very good. But if Moon and Mercury are together and are influenced by other cruel planets, that can be very bad. So Moon and Mercury, it's actually better if they're not in the same sign, if they're not conjunct. But anyway, considering the conjunction of Moon and Mercury, this is going to be when you have Moon and Mercury in the same sign or the same house within your birth chart. Or it could mean that in your birth chart, you have Moon in Pisces, and now Mercury is transiting through Pisces. So this will be applicable both to the conjunctions as well as to the transits. Now, what's the positive aspect of Moon and Mercury? Well, this can make a very popular, friendly, agreeable, considerate, cheery person. Mercury is all about being friends. Mercury is considered to be two-faced and two-sided. That's because he can be friends with anybody. You want to go rob a bank? Mercury's going to say, hey, I can get in with that. If you want to go pick flowers to go put on the altar, Mercury's going to say, I love that too. Because Mercury can see the enjoyable side to everything. That's why Mercury becomes a cruel planet when he's with cruel planets, and he remains as a benefic or a gentle planet when he's with gentle planets. So it gives a great capacity to befriend others. The Moon itself, when it's bright in particular, that is a planet that gives popularity. It's that planet that when a person has a really bright moon or a nicely situated moon, like in the first house or 10th house or 5th house, there's just a natural comfort around them, meaning people will come up to them and say, oh, don't I know you? There's just this natural connection the Moon is able to make. And so with Moon and Mercury together, well supported, good Rashi aspects to the sign that they're in, good Lajatati avashtas to either one of these planets, it's going to make a person have the great capacity to befriend others because there's this natural sense of rapport between them. It also gives a person great capacity for creativity. The person can manage all different ways of manifesting creativity within their life. It can make a person very analytical and perceptive. Remember, the Moon is what comes into our senses. Mercury is how we make sense of it. So if we get a Moon-Mercury combination, supportive Moon-Mercury combination, that's going to be a time, or that's going to indicate an individual who they perceive things very clearly and they can organize the information very well. So that's excellent for analysis or scientific research. So it's good for being a writer or coming up with new theories. But it can also make one extremely playful because the Moon is said to be lovesick. The Moon loves people in general, and Mercury loves trivia, loves hanging out with others, loves exploring new things. So Moon and Mercury combination, well supported, can make a person extremely playful and fun to be around. But again, you got to watch that affliction, because when we have an affliction to both of them, it's a double affliction for difficulty relating to the world well, relating to others well, relating to people well. So it can make a person too scattered, too fragmented, overactive, too much vata, and it can give a person overactive imagination, and all these things can make a person ineffective. So whereas a good moon in Mercury, you are extremely effective because you perceive things well, you process them clearly, you act upon them, you manage them well. But you get an affliction to these planets, especially if they're in conjunction, then that's like wiping out the person's capacity to be effective. So when it comes to transits, again, if there are Moon-Mercury conjunctions in your chart, and a transit of Saturn comes along or a transit of Mars comes along, and those transits are harmful because of low Bindu points or whatever it might be, that's going to be a time where you want to be extra cautious of how you interact with the world, if you're perceiving things clearly. You want to be extra cautious in regards to how you pay attention to analyzing the possibilities of a situation. And you might be extremely frustrated with friendships, things of this nature. But benefic, gentle aspects to Moon and Mercury, or even transits of Moon and Mercury coming together when, say, Moon is Mula Trikona and Mercury is in a friend sign. Well, those can be excellent times to throw parties, to have public events, to reach out to the world, to mend relationships and things, to do things that are going to be enjoyable and fun. So these are some considerations in relationship to Moon-Mercury combinations as well as transits.